My name is Mara Ellis, and I walked into the county courthouse this morning still smelling like butter and vanilla. The hallway outside courtroom 2B is loud with other people's problems, custody fights, landlord disputes, parking tickets. And then there's me standing there with heat scars on my wrists from an industrial oven and 3 people who share my last name sitting behind me like I'm the disgrace. My mother keeps smoothing her cardigan like this is church. My father won't look at me. My brother is leaning back in his chair, arms crossed, wearing that smug little smile he practices in the mirror. They used to laugh whenever I talked about dough. That's the part that keeps replaying in my head. Not even the stealing. The laughing. Baking isn't a real job, Mara, my dad would say. It's something you do when you're bored. Be nice to your brother, my mom would whisper. Kyle actually works. And now here we are. Kyle in his best clean shirt pretending to be some kind of partner. My parents sitting on his side like we rehearsed this as a family. Me holding a folder full of bank records, payroll logs, and security footage. I wasn't just baking before sunrise. I was documenting. The bailiff calls my name. Ellis versus Ellis. That sound goes straight through my spine. Kyle leans in behind me and mutters under his breath, all fake gentle like he's the reasonable one. We can still settle this quietly if you just sign Mara. You don't have to make a scene. I turn and look him in the eye. I want him to see it. I want him to understand. I'm not here to make a scene, I say. I'm here to make a record. The sound of the oven timer used to be my alarm clock. Every morning before the sun came up, I'd be in that tiny kitchen, hair tied back, arms dusted in flour, praying the dough would rise before my father came downstairs. He hated the smell of butter at dawn, said it made the house feel lazy. He'd walk in, grab his coffee, and shake his head. You need to stop wasting time, Mara. No one pays bills with muffins. My mother would sigh in that way that wasn't quite sympathy or disapproval, just fatigue. Your brother's already helping your dad at the garage. You should think about doing something useful, too. Kyle, of course, always got to be the useful one. He could break a lawnmower and somehow be praised for trying. When I burned a batch of croissants, it was proof that I didn't belong in the real world. For years I let them define me by what I wasn't: steady, practical, serious. I kept my notebooks of recipes hidden in drawers scribbled between grocery lists and unpaid bills. I worked shifts at the diner, saving every tip that came my way, because I knew one day I'd stop apologizing for wanting something of my own. The night I told them I'd found a place, a little storefront on Main Street that smelled like coffee and old paint, my father laughed outright. You a business owner? You can't even fix a toaster. Kyle joined in, smirking over his beer. Maybe she'll make cupcakes for my customers when I open my own shop. My mother didn't laugh, but she didn't stop them either. She just whispered, Don't get your hopes up too high, honey. It's a cruel world out there. That night I walked out with my coat half-zipped, the cold biting through the fabric. The world outside was quiet, but inside me something was finally loud. They'll never take you seriously, Denise had said once. Not until you stop asking them to. She was right. I didn't tell my parents when I signed the lease, because for the first time it didn't matter whether they believed. The first morning inside my bakery felt like standing in the middle of a dream I wasn't supposed to have. The walls were the color of watered-down cream, the kind of shade that looked like it had given up years ago. The air smelled faintly of plaster and rust, but to me it smelled like possibility. The oven made a grinding noise when it started, and the front door stuck every time someone tried to open it. But when I pulled that first tray of cinnamon rolls from the heat, I cried. Not because they were perfect, but because they were mine. Denise was the only one who showed up that week. She worked nights doing bookkeeping for half the town and still stopped by to help me set up. You need to make sure your name is on everything, she said. Don't trust anyone who says we when you're the one doing the work. I didn't realize how right she'd be. Months passed. Slowly, Ellis bread and butter began to smell like home. The cash register never held much, but it jingled honestly. Some nights I'd sit after closing counting small bills and coins, feeling richer than I'd ever been. Then, one afternoon, a woman said something that stopped me cold. "Your brother's so proud of you," she said. "He told me he helps run this place." I laughed at first. Then more people said it. "Your family's bakery is so cute. Your brother's got great marketing sense." Every time I smiled like it didn't sting. When Kyle finally walked through that door, he looked around like a man inspecting property. "We could really grow this, you know," he said. "We..." That word hung in the air like smoke. He didn't ask how I'd managed rent or noticed the burns on my hands. He just smiled wide and false. "You should let me handle some of the finances." I told him I was fine. He told me I was naive. That night, I couldn't sleep. Because this bakery wasn't a gift. It was the cost of every scar I'd earned. Success came quietly on a Tuesday morning when the line stretched past the florist next door. That's when Kyle showed up again. "Our little family business is thriving," he said. I wanted to scream. Instead, I baked until 3 a.m. 2 weeks later, my parents came by for the first time. My mother brought a plant and an awkward smile. My father brought opinions. "You should let Kyle handle the money side," he said. "You're doing well because you're an Ellis." I realized then it was never about helping me. It was about owning me. Later, they invited me to dinner. Fried chicken, fake smiles. "It's time to make things official," my father said. "Put Kyle on the papers." "Why would I do that?" I asked. "Because he's family," my mother said, softly. "And family shares." Kyle leaned back smug. "You don't want people thinking you're selfish, do you?" I looked at each of them. "No. I think I finally understand what family means to you." The next morning, I called Denise. She showed up with coffee and a notepad like she already knew. "They're trying to take it, aren't they?" she asked. "They already think they have." "Then let's make sure they don't." From that day forward, I ran a bakery and built a case. I saved every receipt, every transaction, every deposit slip. I upgraded my security cameras not for thieves breaking in, but for the ones who'd already smiled at me. Kyle started showing up more often, helping with deliveries and cash. I let him. Every move he made was time-stamped, logged, and backed up. By summer, I had everything: payroll records, footage, text messages. When he cornered me one night, demanding I sign half the business to him, I just said, "Put it in writing." He did. I slid it back across the counter. "You misspelled fraud." The courthouse in Cedar Falls wasn't grand. Denise sat beside me at the plaintiff's table. Across the aisle, Kyle looked freshly pressed for once. My parents sat behind him like this was a graduation. The hearing began quietly. His lawyer painted him as a loyal brother who helped run the bakery. Then Denise handed me the clicker. The screen lit up with footage: Kyle pocketing cash, writing checks, posing as co-owner. The room went silent. "Ms. Ellis," the judge asked, "why didn't you report this sooner?" "Because I kept hoping family meant something," I said. But all it ever meant was that they thought I wouldn't fight back. When the verdict came, it was clear the court ruled in my favor. Kyle was barred from entering the bakery, ordered to repay what he stole. I didn't smile. I just said, "Thank you for seeing me." The days after the trial were quiet victories. Customers left napkin notes. "Proud of you, Mara." Justice served. My father never came, but sometimes I'd see my mother's car outside before sunrise. She never came in. One morning, months later, my father did. He ordered coffee and a roll. "You did good, kid," he said. I nodded. "Thanks." We didn't talk about Kyle. He finished left a 20 and walked away. Closure doesn't always look like forgiveness. Sometimes it just looks like peace. A few years later, Ellis Bread and Butter wasn't just a bakery anymore. It was a landmark. Warm oak floors replaced the linoleum, the walls soft yellow, the same bell still jingling above the door. Every morning I arrive before dawn, breathing in that first whiff of yeast and sugar. It smells like freedom. I catch my reflection in the window. Hair tied back, hands scarred, eyes steady, and I almost don't recognize her. Not the girl who begged to be believed. Just a woman who built something out of disbelief and kept it alive. People still ask if I ever forgave them. I always say yes. Because forgiveness isn't letting them back in. It's refusing to carry their weight anymore. Some call what I did revenge. Maybe it was. But not the kind that ruins. The kind that rebuilds. Because real revenge isn't fire. It's growth. It's walking into your own shop, turning on the lights, and knowing every inch of it exists because you refused to give up. I wipe the counter, unlock the door, and watch the sunrise paint the glass gold. I used to think success meant proving them wrong. Now I know it just means being free, and that's the sweetest thing I've ever made.